So yesterday we finished up with chapter 18 and Henry, and he had this grand scheme of a plan to figure out a way to get to New Orleans so that way he could get his marble out of his pants. And a lot of you said that you thought that he was going to sneak away. So we'll read the next few chapters. Sorry we can't talk about it today, but you'll at least get to listen. So we'll read the next few chapters, and then we'll have a conversation about it tomorrow. So the next chapter is called Marble Journey Part 2. Cora Krishnaswamy. I think I'm pronouncing it properly. Marble cake? That was it. She couldn't wait to go to the kitchen in the back of the Salvation Army and bake it. Cora wanted to try making a marble cake with 3 flavors swirled together. The usual marble cake was 2, chocolate and vanilla. But that was a little too ordinary for the occasion, Cora thought. Too ordinary. Cora laughed at the joke inside her head. Pardon? The woman at the counter looked up from writing her check. Oh, no, nothing. Something I just thought of. Cora unclipped her hair and let it fall across her shoulders. Like toilet paper tucked in the waistband of a pair of blue jeans, Cora always managed to drag embarrassing stuff out into public. She couldn't seem to keep the roll of thought she had from spilling out of her mouth. Sorry, she said. I didn't even know I laughed out loud. This time, it wasn't so bad. Just a random laugh. But people were sensitive these days. Cora knew that. They'd been through so much, too much, and there was nothing funny about any of it. She was lucky. Her small house had been spared, but not her neighbor's. His house sat lower than hers, and it got flooded, even when hers did not. Well, it's important to find something to laugh about, said the woman. She picked up her shopping bag from the counter. Yes, agreed Cora. The woman was generous. She could have been put off by Cora's laugh. Her neighbor could have been put off by her, too. If she had been able to hear her over the rain and wind. Of course, she had blurted out that she was queen of the mountain as she stood on her front porch as the rain and wind came down. She still didn't know why she had said that. She had stepped outside for just a moment and was overcome by the raging battle taking place all around her little house. Knives of rain clattering down, the shriek of the wind, and she was, on her covered porch, just above it all. She had felt a sense of relief and a weird thrill. And before she knew it, this queen thing had escaped from her mouth. Just half a second later, she turned her head and saw her neighbor on his roof, water pouring out of his downstairs front window. Cora had seen him on the roof plenty of times before. He hung out there with his daughter sometime, but mostly with 2 older men, his brothers. They came over to her neighbor's house and sang up the lot, and she loved to listen to them. Do you have any children? Cora asked the woman. Yes, said the woman. Why? We just got a big donation from Vermont, said Cora. I haven't gone through all of it, but there is some kids' stuff, some kids' clothes. She indicated a pile on the side counter. Take a look. Someone is about to come by and take them to Baton Rouge. So this is a shipment from Vermont, y'all. I'm surprised because that's exactly where Henry's from. All right, let's keep going. The woman walked to the clothes and thumbed through the stack. She pulled a pair of blue jeans from the middle and unfolded them. These look almost new, she said. Cora nodded. But they're too long for my son. She began to fold them again. Oh, I'll do that, said Cora. She took the jeans from the woman. I should get home to him, said the woman. I'm starting to let him stay home alone, but only for an hour or so at a time. How old is he? Asked Cora. 10, said the woman. Sort of an in-between age, huh? A little too young to stay home alone, but also a little too old to need supervision, asked Cora. Yes, exactly, said the woman, as she began to walk toward the door. I'll be back, she said. I'm so glad you're open. What do you think of chocolate peanut butter cinnamon cake? Cora blurted out. It sounds delicious, said the woman. Oh, good. To me too, said Cora. 3 cheers for the generator. I'm trying to make a marble cake with 3 flavors. 3 cheers for 3 flavors. Sounds complicated. Uh, it's for three things, so I thought three flavors would be a nice touch. The woman smiled. Thing one, I hope that you, oh, not you, Cora pointed at the woman. You, my neighbor, move back home. Thing two, I love listening to you and your trio sing. And thing three, I'm sorry for what I said out there in the hurricane. The words tumbled out of Cora's mouth. The woman stared at her. Cora shook her head. She had gone and done it again, toilet paper in the waist of the jeans, right there in public. She twisted her hair into a bun and clipped it into place. She could at least keep her hair neat. She looked down at the blue jeans in her hands and slowly finished folding them. By the time she looked up, maybe the woman would be gone. And chapter 19 is called Xavion. Xavion knew it was wishful thinking. Thinking if he could just pay back the money for the chocolate bars, he could make the whole hurricane mess go away. But he still felt like he had to try. Xavion found Papa in the living room, hunched over a tiny canvas. A tiny square slate roof, shingle actually. The kind Xavion had given an IOU to Luna Market. More shingles were scattered all over the table. Xavion had overheard Tavius and Enzo offering them to Skeet and Papa. We figured Skeet could use them for some art project, so we collected them as we walked, said Tavius. You should have seen us, waterlogged and weighed down with those shingles in our pockets, said Enzo. It gave us something to focus on. You should use them too, said Enzo to Papa. Make lemonade out of lemons. Make slate-aid out of slate, said Tavius. Xavion had watched his Papa picked up a piece of slate and turned it slowly in his hands. Now he was painting on one. What's up, Xav? Xavion knew for a fact that if mothers had eyes in the back of their heads, fathers had them on top of theirs. How many times had Papa been bent over a mural, sketch, working, but still knew that he had entered the room? It wasn't Mama's soft-eyed stare and bear hug combination, but it was still comforting. Most of the time. Not today. But that wasn't Papa's fault. Xavion had on a specific scary mission today. Excuse me, let me reread that. Xavion was on a specific scary mission today. Xavion sat across from Papa. His short hair was grayer than Xavion could remember seeing before. Papa's hair was often all different colors. He had a little habit of rubbing his fingers into his scalp while he was painting, but the gray was not paint. Xavion breathed in the familiar smell of the acrylic mixed with hair relaxer and cedar deodorant. It was the only familiar thing his body had experienced since they left their house to slog through water, and it made him suddenly and forcefully sad. What are you painting, Papa? He asked. He was stalling for time before he asked his question. The question he could only have one answer. Tiny landscapes. You never paint tiny. True, said Dad. You've only ever painted one landscape. True, too. Papa's paintings were of Mardi Gras and musicians and fishing for shrimp and oysters and catfish. They were huge, too. He usually painted right across a whole wall. Sometimes the world tells you to do something new. Hearing that made Xavion's sadness break apart like fireworks. Maybe this wouldn't be so hard. Maybe Papa was ready for something different. I woke up with this mighty strong urge to paint something very small, continued Papa. He picked up a slate shingle that was drying next to him. The slate makes the colors pop, he said, and it feels good to hold this tree in my hand. He opened his fingers so the shingles balanced in the middle of his palm. It's in one piece. I can see the whole thing. The tree from the Appalachian spruce fir forest. A red spruce? Xavion asked, but he was sure he was right. Its green needle-tipped branches reached to the very edge of the shingle, and the sky around it was a tropical blue, almost like the sea, but quieter and flat. No brushstrokes to indicate waves. Mama's tree? Papa nodded. It was the tree at the top of the mural that Papa had painted in Xavion's room. The tree that stood on top of Grandmother Mountain, where Mama had grown up. It wasn't actually there. The University of North Carolina Public Television Broadcasting Tower was at the top of the real Grandmother Mountain, but Papa had given Mama a red spruce on theirs. Xavier wanted to climb the tree, jump from the ground to its lowest branch, and climb all the way to the top, all the way to the still, silent sky. I like it, he said. He had to do it. He had to ask Papa now. Speaking of the world telling you to do something new, he began. Yes, said Papa, placing the red spruce tree down again and picking up his paintbrush. Xavier picked up his own dry paintbrush and pushed it along the wooden table, tracing the shape of the mountain, as if a picture would speak to Papa better than words. We need to go to Mama's mountain. We've had this discussion, Zave. That didn't sound like a promising beginning. Maybe a picture really would be better. Xavier was going to have to be clearer. No, we haven't had a discussion about this. We had a mention of it. A mention? Said Papa. Yes. I mentioned it to you, and you made fun of me, and then you left the kitchen. Papa dipped his paintbrush into water and wiped it dry with a rag. He squeezed a dot of orange paint onto the corner of the slate. Why don't you go for a run, Xavier? Wouldn't that feel good? Xavier couldn't imagine running. He was exhausted. Trying not to think about before was exhausting. Let's go to Mama's mountain, he tried again. I don't know why you're so obsessed with that mountain idea. Xavier stuck his paintbrush to the orange paint on Papa's slate and grabbed a slate of his own. Ask me, he painted. He painted the top. Papa opened the pink paint and squeezed it next to the orange. Why do you want to go to that mountain then? Xavier dipped his brush in the pink and added to the edge of the orange. He unscrewed the red paint and stuck the tip of the paintbrush in the top. He blurred it into the edge of the pink. He tried to remember the shape of the mural in his room and drew the jagged edges of a mountain and filled around it with red paint before it came flooding in. Except for Papa, everything he had known his whole life was gone. The big oak tree and its shade and the brick walkway leading up to his house, gone. The house, gone. Everything inside the house, gone. And the one last thing that had reminded him of Mama was also gone. All of them swept away in the hurricane. And before that, Mama herself. She was gone too. After Mama died, Xavier spent every waking moment searching for a way to feel like he wouldn't just float away. And after the moments turned into days, and the days turned to weeks, and the weeks turned to months, 7 months to be exact, he had found it. It was a pathway from the bathroom through the art studio across the hall and into the bedroom. The long way to his room after he brushed his teeth, but he walked it the same way each night. It was on the slices of bread he laid out every morning, between the peanut butter and the honey, tucked tight into the wax paper. He placed in the backpack to take to school. It was it was tied in the laces of his lucky running sneakers. It was on the thin rim of the molding over the archway between the kitchen and the living room. He jumped to touch every time he passed through, and it was embedded in the gray rocks that sat across the edge of his windowsill, each of them with a white crystal line running through the middle. Rocks he had found by the river, made wishes on, and placed on his sill to come true. All these routines and rituals designed and practiced and perfected in order to feel like his feet were firmly on the ground. And always, always, Grandmother Mountain standing guard over Xavier as he slept each night and woke each morning to begin his maze of a day once again. The mountain, Mama's mountain. And now, everything from his room, his home, his life was maybe, maybe not, probably, surely, completely gone. Xavier put down his paintbrush and held the white mountain rising up inside the blazing sunset in his hand. Because sometime the world tells you to do something new, he said. And the next chapter is called Henry. Please, Jake. Henry watched Jake close the door to the trailer on the 18-wheeler. He was doing a last check of the truck before he headed out of town. Please let me come with you. I don't know, Henry. He opened the driver's side door of the cab and climbed in. He turned the headlights on, then turned them off. He turned the windshield wipers on, then turned them off. Henry put his hand on the giant cab door and looked up at Jake. Excuse me. I need to get out of here, he said. Jake started the truck. It rumbled to life. Henry felt its vibrations through the metal, a buzzing feeling in his hand. Jake, he said. Jake was testing the gears. Jake, he said louder. Still nothing. Jake! He yelled above the engine roar. Jake turned his head. He cut the engine. Henry's heart was racing from raising his voice. I need, Henry began, but he didn't know what to say. He looked past Jake, out through the passenger window to Mount Mansfield. I want, he tried again, but nothing came. Jake jumped down from the cab. He began inspecting the front tire, running his hand along the thread. Its tread. A red-breasted goose in the Siberian tundra is vulnerable to the Arctic fox attacks, said Henry all of a sudden. The foxes are always hungry. They'll eat geese in an instant. If the geese build their nests alone, the foxes eat their eggs and chicks too. Like that. Henry snapped his fingers. But they don't make their nests alone. They wait until the falcons build their nests, and then the geese build theirs around them. The falcons fight off the Arctic foxes. Henry paused. He stared at him, listening intently. The falcon is small but fierce, finished Henry. National Geographic special? Asked Jake. PBS, said Henry. Cool. Cool birds. I can always count on you to find the cool animals. Henry looked Jake right in the eyes. I want to be a falcon, Jake. He glanced out the cab window again. The edges of Mount Mansfield glimmered under the sun. He looked back at Jake. I can help in New Orleans. Jake leaned against the truck. He stuffed his hands in his pocket. It's going to be easy there. Sorry, it isn't going to be easy there, said Jake. I know, said Henry. It isn't going to be pretty. I know. Have you seen it on TV? It's pure survival, said Jake. Nothing pretty about it. Nothing pretty about here, said Henry, glancing back at the stupid, hulking mountain one more time. Jake nodded slowly. He pressed his lips together to look and took in a deep breath through his nose. Nope, he said finally. You're right about that. He turned and looked at Henry. I gotta go. I can't explain it, but I need to be in the middle of that city. I need to be right there in the middle of the hurricane-torn place. Like maybe it will stop my own world from spinning. He laughed. It was a sad, small sound. I'm a nut is all. You're a falcon, said Henry. Me too. He held his breath. The air inside him filled with hope. Okay, bird boy, said Jake. I'll take you with me, if your mother says it's okay. Henry blew the air out of his body, and the hope that he had held spun and curled into the wind and headed south, which happened to be the way the wind was traveling. And the last chapter for today is called Xavion, chapter 21. Xavion had to get to Grandmother Mountain. The one thought was crystal clear in his mind, as crystal clear as the white linings running through the middle of his wishing rocks. Somewhere there was a person who could take him there. But before that, Xavion had a debt to pay. He had to find a way to get money. He had to find a way to get Papa to take him back to New Orleans. He had to slow down his heart. And tomorrow, the next chapter will be Marble Journey Part 3, Pierce Dutcham. All right. Hope you guys are doing some thinking about the chapters that we